Okay, welcome, Joe, to the Free Your Mind series, an open discussion on mental health. And this is Joe Speredon. Did I say that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Sweet. Um, I wanted to have you on because I've gotten to know you over the last year, and you started an amazing circle called the Utah Men's Circle. And I've transitioned in my line of work. We were both realtor. You're still a realtor, but I used to be one too. And um, takes a lot of energy to hold that kind of space for people. And I sit with ketamine clients now and really work in the mental health arena. So these recordings and these interviews are just so beneficial to my clients and the public as well. So um, tell us about yourself a little bit.
Okay. Well, like I said, Joe Speredon. I was born and raised in Utah. Grew up in West Valley, and have lived with my family for the past 16 years in West Haven, Utah, which is Weber County area. Um, Been in a couple of different fields over that time. The electrical industry. I worked in the fitness industry for a while, and then in real estate. And yeah, just been doing men's work now for a number of years as well, and that really came to a head in 2020, which a lot of stuff did,
Right.
and um, yeah, a lot of what I do now is born from that period of time there. But I've been focused on that. I still do real estate, like as you mentioned, but do less of that now and more of the men's work and that type of stuff, and working with men on their own masculine embodiment and mental health, and wanting to support them in those things. So that's me.
Cool. And you have four kids.
Four kids. I have three sons and a daughter. My sons are 12 and 14 and 18, and my daughter is 16.
Wow. So you're raising some men.
Yeah, we're trying. We're trying.
Yeah. I'm just gonna silence my phone real quick because I have a feeling it's gonna go off. um. So what inspired you to open up the men's work and tell us a little bit about the Utah's Men's Circle?
Yeah, I so this started, like I said, in 2020. I found myself kind of in the midst of my own existential crisis and feeling very isolated. Which for most men, it's kind of cliche, but comes to a head around 40 years old. And in 2020, I was going to be turning 40.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a lot of different things came together at that period of time. But I found a group called the Sacred Sons, and I signed up to go to one of their retreats, and it was an amazing, life changing experience. It was down in Southern California, south of San Diego. And after that experience, I knew I wanted to be involved with them, and have continued with them in a lot of ways, and co-lead retreats, and do a lot of different stuff within the organization now. And I knew that I wanted to take that home, that experience. I think anybody that's ever been in a professional industry anywhere has the experience of going to a retreat and then coming back. And the challenge is being able to apply that information in your actual life, right? And so in about December of 2020, I scheduled my first men's circle, and no one showed up. Um, as again, 2020 was weird. People didn't want to show up to a lot of stuff anyway,
Uh-huh.
and this was different than something that I didn't know that it was available anywhere else in Utah, and so I just knew that I had to kind of try to create it. Um, Come to find out, there's some amazing men that have been doing different stuff over time, but I didn't know any of them at that time. So fortunately, I was relatively consistent in doing circles, and I'd get three, four, five guys. A really great day, we'd have eight. And about a year ago, I decided that I needed to create the Utah Men's Circle Instagram page. And I wanted to do that so people didn't have to follow me personally to be able to find out about the men's circle stuff. And fortunately, I had some friends that shared that page, and I found pretty quickly Tony Pizza and Taylor Cooper,
Great
who
guys. I know them
great,
separately, you know,
yeah,
and you all came together, and I was like, well, that's a perfect triad of awesomeness, you know?
yeah, exactly. They've been instrumental and so phenomenal in the growth of the men's circle. And the ironic thing is, even in that work, I was trying to lone wolf it, right? I was trying to do that on my own. And as soon as Taylor and Tony stepped in, it started to grow at a much quicker rate. And we've just been going from there. So yeah, it's been pretty wonderful.
The circles are freaking massive.
Yeah, we've had some big ones. We'll get 80, 85 guys, a few of those, and it's so cool, so fun.
It is so cool. Um, what are you seeing as like some common breakthroughs that these men are having?
Man, I think, with the men's circle, part of our mission is just connecting men back into their own hearts and to each other. And so one of the first breakthroughs that I had, and that so many other men have as well, is all these feelings that we think we're the only ones feeling. It turns out everyone's feeling, just no one was talking about. So, when you get a man up there that says, I get sad sometimes, or anxious, or afraid, and you're met with 30 other men, 50 other men, 70 other men that say, hey, me too. That already in and of itself is so cathartic and so healing, because you're not alone in that anymore. And all these men that you think have it all figured out are just regular people too. And they're struggling, but they're there for you and they support you in that struggle.
I post about this all the time. I'm like, normalize emotions and crying for men. Women can do better in holding space for men to be emotional because you guys carry so much. And I have a lot of male clients that will come to me just so they can cry because they don't feel safe with their wives. And I get angry women that post on my page all the time about it, like, how dare you, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, you were doing your job. you know?
Well, and I'll tell you, yes, men definitely need to express emotion. And what happens is we feel those emotions and then we just kind of like push them down inside, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you do that for long enough, it starts to come out sideways. It's addiction, it's abuse, anger, a lot of those things that can really hurt people.
Yeah.
Um, the important thing with the men's circle is, can women hold space for men? Absolutely, they can. Should they have to? Not necessarily. And that's part of the evolution of the men's circle. Is I tell the brothers, like, if you have a partner, if you have a spouse, if you have a friend, whatever it is, come here and we'll hold you, and then you can go and hold them. And that's part of the masculine energy, is that containment and creating that. So you come to the men's circle and you get to just lose it. You get to be irrational. You get to show all the big emotions. You get to be as scary as you want to be in that. And we can contain that, because as many men as reach out to me, I have 10 times as many women reach out saying, I am tired of being the container, of being the strong one for him. And so when you come to the men's circle, you let a lot of that out. You have men that will support you in it. Then you still come home and you can talk about your feelings, but it doesn't need to be in this out of control, uncontained, chaotic way that oftentimes can happen and be very exhausting.
I love that. I love that so much. Because imagine what that's going to do. Um, I mean, that's kind of why we're in the chaos that we are in collectively because there just isn't that contain. There hasn't been that container until now, and
Yeah, not consistently for sure.
yeah, yeah, that's really cool. Um, I'm just making sure that So yeah, I was gonna ask you something. You, I want to read your mission statement real quick if I can.
Please, yeah.
That's what I was gonna do. Let me find it really quick.
And this mission statement again. Tony Pizza was very instrumental in putting this together, and he does so phenomenal with those words and really just being very succinct and straightforward. So I'm so grateful
Like
to have
the
him and
email.
Taylor and so many of the other brothers that step up to help facilitate that circle.
That's awesome that felt safe enough because this I can I I'm assuming it's kind of like your little baby, and only certain
Oh
people
yeah,
can hold the baby. So,
right.
all right, it says we, the Utah Men's Circle, define our mission and objective as this: to first and foremost be a safe space where the masculine can gather in connection. In our vulnerability and authenticity, we connect to ourselves and each other with the desire to be witnessed, supported, celebrated, and challenged. To continually define and then seek healthy masculine embodiment. Through connection and joint practices, we reveal more of our masculinity to heal the wound, discard the toxic, and strengthen the divine. We seek to refine ourselves and embody the four masculine archetypal energies of king, warrior, magician, and lover. In our continuously evolving selves, we perpetually define masculinity and embody what the circle provides: a refuge of safety and defense for those who have been marginalized and ignored. We become a haven for all those seeking healing and expansion. We embody this refined masculinity at our jobs, in our homes, and in all aspects of our lives. To enjoy and benefit from a tribe of like minded men, we become friends, brothers, defenders, collaborators, and partners in the continued evolution of all those that seek interdependence with us. Finally, through our connection, growth, and evolution, we seek to unite all of those within our tribe and people: women, children, our elders, in short, all of humanity, to rise together and join this adventurous life. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I work a lot with archetypes, I think it's pretty brilliant. Um, I've seen a lot of progress in people when you kind of do that shadow work with the archetypes. But can you explain to me what the four archetypes?
Yeah, absolutely. It's as human beings, I think we're constantly looking for different ways to define ourselves. And we do that as we are identifying a sense of purpose. We do this with astrological symbols, we do this with human design, we do this with your enneagram or your personality color, or so many different things. And the archetypes, those four specifically that were mentioned, the king, warrior, magician, and lover, are four really good places to check in with ourselves in different aspects of masculinity. And I know that there are lots of different theories and ideas around how many archetypes there can be. And for me, I'm like to be very simple. And as it boils down, those four are what I believe to be the most succinct. And so in each one of those archetypes, there is, for example, the warrior in his fullness, right? Which means you are very balanced in that warrior energy. And what we've come to define as toxic masculinity is each one of those archetypes have kind of an active and a passive pull, right? And so the active pull of the warrior is the sadist. This is where abuse is coming from, and those that are really just causing pain to others uh, because they don't want to be hurt. So if I can hurt you first, then I'll feel a little more safe, right? And a lot of those polarizations will come from fear, essentially. So the other side of that, the more passive side, is the masochist. And the masochist is the guy that believes that if he's not suffering, he must not be doing enough in his masculinity, right? If he doesn't hate his job, if he's not just exhausted all the time, well, then you just must not be doing enough. And there are different questions that we'll check in with the brothers in different circles of how are you showing up in that way? Are you showing up in the fullness of the warrior, somebody who is very driven, purpose driven, right? Obviously, the definition of a warrior over the past thousands of years has changed quite a bit. And so, while there are still absolute warriors and soldiers and things like that, there's also just the way that you attack life, right? The way that you wake up in the morning intentionally, as it were. So, each one of the archetypes has an active and a passive polarization and different characteristics of that person in his fullness. And the goal is to constantly be checking in with each one of those four archetypes. And it's not quite like an astrological symbol or something like that where you're one of the four. In masculinity, really the pursuit is to be in each one of those and be balanced in each one of those. But it's an ongoing pursuit, right?
Yeah.
It can feel overwhelming at times.
I tell people it's kind of like that movie Inside Out where you have all those like different energies in your brain like talking to you, you know, it's kind of like a spirit guide in a way, but um I think that's really powerful, and I agree with you with those four. Like that's brilliant to use it in this kind of dynamic. Shoot, do I need to talk louder? Can you hear me? But hi, Zach.
I can
Hi.
hear
Yeah,
you
a
okay, but yeah.
little quiet, but
I know.
I think when you're closer to the mic, it's a little bit better.
Hey, I guide ketamine clients all day long, and so it's kind of funny because I talk so low now. So I'm trying my best to like bring my voice up. So, well, this is Zach. He's an amazing man too, and is very passionate about mental health. And so I hope you guys can link up and be friends. And
Oh yeah, Zach's a regular attendee at the men's circle.
oh,
I
yay!
know,
Never
I
mind.
know. I was so stoked to see you guys on this thing together. I'm just like, oh my gosh, some of my two favorite people.
You're awesome. Yay! I know I've been wanting to do this for a while, so that's rad. Cool. So, okay, I noticed you actually started a women's circle too. Is that still going, or is it kind of on pause, or
You know, we didn't really start that. The nice thing about the men's circle is we don't charge money for what we do, and we do that for a couple of reasons. One, we feel like there's a place for people to be compensated for their gifts and talents, absolutely. And we believe it's necessary to have a place where you can just go be and not necessarily be sold something.
yeah,
And as we don't charge money, one of the things that we've done as we've gained traction is different people have said, I think I want to do a circle, or I want to do a circle, I want to do a circle. And we are more than willing to share what we've learned and what's worked well for us with anybody. And so a woman by the name of Rebecca wanted to really pursue that women's circle. And um but in and we're happy for her, and you know, want to support her in doing that. Anybody that wants to gather people together in the name of connection and mental health and community, we are in support of those people.
yeah,
I have brothers in multiple different states throughout the country, and honestly different countries that we're supporting in their creation of men's circles as well.
mm,
And you know, every time we meet with men or women, they said, well, I think I want to do something like this. Yours maybe isn't just for me. It's awesome. Great. Can I help you? Right.
yeah.
And we're not in competition with each other. So we get to just share best practices and what's working well and what's not working well, and continue to evolve and grow to continue to support each other.
Cool. I love that. It's very abundant of you. You know, um, what since we're talking about mental health, what are some of the struggles that you talked a little bit about isolation, and maybe it was this circle that kind of brought you out of it, but like what were some of the things? some of your struggles, and what were some of the methods, and some of the methods you probably still use to stay mentally healthy?
Absolutely. So much of life, but really mental health for me is our level of awareness.
Mm.
And when we don't have a high level of awareness, it doesn't feel like we have a lot of choices. And as society has certain expectations or conditions, oftentimes it can feel like I am alone. I'm feeling all of these things and I don't know how to deal with these things that I'm feeling. And no one cares and no one understands. And they just want me to do more, produce more, be more, have more. And so I was operating from a very limited perspective of awareness. And unfortunately for me, as it has been the case for many men, it got very dark to where I only saw a few paths forward. And some of those were very scary. Um, so I can empathize with those that have gone down a lot of those paths and struggled with that. What is so important to me is that as we spend time in meditation, as we spend time with other men, as we spend time learning and studying, our awareness expands. And in that expanded awareness, we see more choices, we see more options, and that can create hope. And as we have those choices and we make different choices, we experience growth and liberation. And that to me is really what I continually want to experience and expand in is what is my awareness of the world around me. Um, Another thing that I will say along those lines is we tend to operate, and this is just my observation of society, and I know for myself, I can definitely speak to this. We wake up in the mornings at time and say, "Oh my goodness, what is the world going to do to me today?" And I hope that my boss is nice, and I hope that the weather is nice, and I hope the economy is good, and I hope all of these people and places behave. And if they do, well, then I have a chance in hell of being happy. And what has shifted for me is taking responsibility for the reality that I create and waking up in the morning and saying, what do I want to experience today? And it doesn't matter what my boss does. It doesn't matter what the economy does. It doesn't matter what others do. I have choices in how I'm going to respond. And that is such a liberating place to operate from, much more sustainable.
Yes. When I'm guiding people through ketamine, what ketamine does is it works with the neuroplasticity of your brain and creates new neurons. And um, it's been instrumental in my life. And I know Zach's, worked with the medicine too. And then there's a bunch of other ways to, other things to work with. But the very first thing we do is set an intention. And that intention is everything.
Mm,
And it's so I start my days off with intentions now. It's like today I intend to, really connect with my clients. And it's like, woo, like just now my heart is freaking exploded, and it's
yeah,
that it sounds simple, but it's a habit.
it
So
is.
yeah, and it's a powerful one. So I love that you brought that up. So,
Absolutely. The ability to wake up on purpose
yeah.
is huge, right?
It's everything,
Yeah.
because there's a long time that I'm like, I don't want to wake up today. I just
Yeah.
I can't find the purpose. And I have a client right now that I've been working with, and he really just cannot find his purpose. And I was like, it is it's so simple. It's not your job. It's not, the things you do every day. It's who you be. It's who you are. It's what you embody. And it like mine is just literally sharing love. It's so simple. It's ridiculous. But it took me forever to just realize that was to just share my love with people.
100%. Yeah.
Um,
I so long for a long time I was searching for my purpose.
mhm.
And it was this idea of there's some hidden purpose out there that I need to discover. And when I discover that, all the pieces of my life are going to fall into place. Um, and I think that's kind of the romanticized version of life that we're sold. But again, the reality is if I wake up in the morning and I say, what do I want to create? What do I want to experience? And if my purpose in life is simply growth and expansion, then I get to approach everything that happens in my life as opportunities to fulfill purpose, right? And there's no such thing as good or bad anymore. Yeah, I have days where I like that day better than other ones, but in every emotion, in every experience, there is still opportunity for growth. There's still opportunity for increased awareness. And so while I feel very called to work with men and in men's work with men's health, that is an aspect of the larger container that is Joe that's just here for growth. Just I want to learn more, be more aware, and continue to push my mental, emotional, spiritual, physical thresholds.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love the way I'm gonna like literally send this recording to him right after this, and send him to your circle because I just, it 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 breaks my heart sometimes to watch them struggle when I know it's not necessary. So
Yeah. And I'm sure so many people have seen this on social media. There's a couple of like viral videos of a woman will say, "Who do you go to when you're struggling?" And then it'll go to 20 different clips of men that says, "No one, nobody cares, nobody. I'm all alone. Nobody, nobody." And while I've felt that, while I have been there, that is not the reality anymore.
yeah, you know
And
better.
yeah, you know better. There are men that want to know you. There are men that are there for you. And I am blessed to have those men now in my life too, that when I'm struggling, I have a group of people that I can reach out to and they're there to support me. And I feel so called to be that for other men as well. So it's changing. It really is.
Good. Thank God. No, this
Yeah.
shit's heavy.
It definitely can be.
When we're empathic, it's like, oh, I don't want to get out of the house. I feel it all so deeply. Um, so when somebody comes to your circle, what are some of the exercises you guys do?
Yeah, it's a great question. We had a circle last night and we had a couple of new men there. And I asked them, I was like, so what was your experience like? And they were initially reflecting like I was really nervous. I was worried that I was going to have to get like way out of my comfort zone. And they said I got out of my comfort zone, but in like a really safe way. So what we do, like a typical circle, we will start by going over a couple of ground rules. And the first ground rule is confidentiality. So anything that is shared in that circle, you get to share your own experience, but you're not sharing anybody else's. And for many people, that is very necessary step to begin with. Um, and then we talk through a couple of other things of how we're going to behave ourselves in that space. And it's all very basic stuff. But as we're doing that, it creates a feeling of safety that, hey, I really can share here and that's okay. Um, Secondly, we will do a check-in. And that check-in is usually just what are three emotions that are present for you right now, right? And we ask that question for a couple of reasons. One, most men have not thought about what emotions are present for them for days or weeks or months.
Yes.
Um, Two, as we see each other expressing like anxiety or frustration, it gives all of us what we're looking for, which is a subconscious permission to do the same. And you see these men that you think are like just the perfect epitome of masculinity that say, I'm sad today. And that's, like I said, so liberating. So that's another thing that we're going to do is we're going to share just some very base feelings of what's going on for us, right? Then we might run through a meditation or some breath. Um, Again, just to sync up together, to be unified. And then there's an opportunity for some conversation. And that conversation is done in groups of like 3 or 4, nothing overwhelming, and just an opportunity to get to know brothers and talk about real things. We're not talking just about cars and sports and beer and sex. Uh, we're also talking about like what our hopes are for the world, what we're experiencing as fathers and husbands and employees and brothers and sons, and the different dynamics of life. And we get to hold each other accountable. But the difference being is accountable doesn't mean I'm holding you accountable to me and I'm going to be disappointed in you. It means I'm going to hold you accountable to you, right? And then at the very end, we'll open up the circle for some shares, or if somebody wants to share with everybody in the circle, they can do that. Um, like many things in life, though, words don't do it justice. And the reality is you just have to be brave enough to try it once, and you'll see what
Yeah.
it's like.
Yeah. What is some advice that you would give to anybody really? Is there some key words of advice you would want to give to some listeners?
you know, I do. And the reason we call it the Utah Men's Circle is it is a circle, meaning while Taylor and Tony and I facilitate it to make sure that it keeps running and runs smoothly, I'm very hesitant, and rightly so, to set myself up as I'm a leader, but by no means am I saying, hey, come be like Joe and do the things that Joe does. Because Joe screws up all the time.
Yeah.
Um, and that's why it's a circle, and that's why it's the Utah Men's Circle and not Joe Speredon Circle. Um, so yes, I will absolutely share the things that I'm learning, the things that I'm experiencing, and I want every other brother to do the same thing when we're there, right? So, the advice that I give most often is reach out, reach out to your brothers, and it is so hard to do, but also so rewarding when it's done. Both from the proactive stance of, I think I need to call John and Bill and Fred to see how they're doing, right? Men don't do that,
No.
but we need to.
Yeah.
And John and Bill and Fred also need to reach out to me when they're struggling, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, a couple months ago, there was a celebrity, his name was Twitch, right?
It was the reason why I started this
See,
interview.
beautiful and so important.
Yeah.
And what I saw so many times there at that period of time was people saying, this is shocking. If you're ever feeling like that, reach out to me. And the reality is nobody's going to.
No.
But what you can do is you can reach out to others. We stop assuming that everybody has it all figured out, and we reach out to others. And I proactively call 20 men every week, at least, um, because I love them,
Mm.
and because we need that community, we need that connection. So that's a big part of it. And the second part of it is start spending some time in silence. Solitude is very different than loneliness. Solitude is intentionally taking some time to go be alone. That's without a phone, that's without a podcast, that's without a TV. And if you just sit with your own thoughts for 15 to 20 minutes, your body, your brain, your soul wants to tell you things. We're just never quiet enough to hear the messages. So that's been a big thing for me, is just sitting in silence and meditation, pondering, and then writing the things down that my brain's been trying to tell me for 30 years and I haven't been listening to.
Well, don't you find when you write it down how it makes room for more new things to come in? Like it gets trapped in there. So writing it down, like free writing first thing in the morning, has been a lifesaver for me.
100%. I couldn't agree more.
But yeah,
I love that.
this psychic clutter going on.
For
Um, also what comes to mind is when those emotions don't get expressed, it gets trapped in our bodies too, and it does, it creates disease and and all those other things that you're talking about. But um, how healthy would we be physically, mentally, spiritually, all those things, as we just express ourselves? And so
certainly.
that's what I really admire about what you're doing. And I just am so grateful that I have a place to send these men that I just adore and love, and know that they're just going to be held so beautifully by your group. So,
Well, thank you. Along those lines, what the best way to refer somebody to the men's group is, and I give you permission, like post my number wherever, and I'm sure Taylor and Tony would be happy to do the same, is as you're talking to a man and say, hey, I know about this men's circle. Would it be okay if I put you on a group text with the leader or this other leader or this other leader of the circle, and just to introduce you to them? Because if you tell them what it is and where it is, the likelihood of them being there is very low.
I know it's taking them forever to get there. I've got three of them. I'm like, have you gone yet? They're like, no, I haven't, but I'm going to. And so I already got three that I'm messaging right after this.
Well, I love that. My experience has been right now in the men's circle, we are filling a need that is not yet a want. And what I mean by that is I used to work in the fitness industry, and part of what I did was some personal training. And inevitably, the people that I would train would be the people that just had the heart attack or just got the diagnosis of diabetes or just, whatever it was.
Hmm.
It was after the thing happened, and the ones that were fortunate enough to survive, now it wasn't an option. They needed, and the same thing happens so often in men's work where it's, I just lost my job. I just gambled away my retirement. I just lost my family or my partner, whoever. My whole life is blown up, and now I need some help. And thank goodness that you're there and you want help. And yes, please be there. And just like the physical health, 3 years before you have the heart attack, let's start the physical fitness then, right?
Hmm.
3 years before that anger and that addiction starts coming out in really unhealthy ways, let's start then proactively, like addressing some of these things so you don't have to go through all of that first, right?
Yeah. Hey Zach, can I put you on the spot for a minute?
Yeah, go for it.
What's been your experience at the circles, and how has it affected your life?
Okay. It's been, I was just thinking of that while Joe was talking, and I showed up that night or one night, and it was up in this canyon, and just this beautiful little area where they were all gathered together. And part of me wanted to walk back to my car once I saw these men, in this big circle. I was like, I don't know if I'll belong at, high school and different things with cliques. I didn't know how it would look, but I hadn't really been in a space where I'd been truly held by my brothers probably ever, like I had that night, just in safety and in trust and in sitting with like emotions and having them be a buoy of, or an anchor of support, where I didn't think I really had anybody at that moment. Just like you guys were talking about those moments where, how do you wake up? And it gave me a new sense of, I guess, purpose, because I felt like that song, Lean on Me. I really felt like I didn't have anybody to lean on in that moment. And it didn't have any of the bullshit shame or crap that a lot of different groups or different things have, or some type of dogma that's going to, you know, cause even more heartache. It was, it was beautiful and a sacred container. And I realized how connected we all are as brothers, and yet how I've I guess like just like Joe said, we got to reach out, and it's really inspired me to do that a lot more. Not only to tune into my own emotions and sit with things that are super unpleasant sometimes in order to grow, but also to reach out to my brothers who are hurting and could use a hand. So it's been magical. I appreciate all you're doing.
How does that
Thanks.
make you feel, Joe?
I I love that. I think about that first day that I met you, Zach, often, and um, the drive that you had to navigate to get there, and going through traffic and different stuff, and that experience that we were able to share, and that reflections like that are what fulfills me. A brother said, last night, um, like this circle's changed my life, and as we meet different men and the partners of men or the parents of men or the children of men that reflect how they're showing up in such different ways because of that circle. So we don't charge money, but there's definitely payment for, and those reflections are more than enough payment. And I love it. I love it so much. It absolutely sustains me and excites me and drives me to continue to just want to do more and more of it.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Um, this interview is going on the Intuition Academy, which is a company I started in 2017. Um, in hopes of helping our youth kind of dig their way out of the chaos that we've created. But it's a lot of it is experiential and in circle, and rather than, I mean, I envision a school where there's not a teacher talking at somebody, but more like holding space and being so much more creative. And so I want everyone that listens to this to just kind of keep an eye out, because we're gonna be, we're changing the world one heart at a time, and we're healing, and I can feel it, and it gives me a lot of hope for the future, and it looks so beautiful. And so I just really honor you, and I thank you so much for the work you're doing, Joe. And I just love our friendship. We need to go get coffee more, because I seriously just appreciate you. So
No, the sentiment is the same, Michelle, and thank you for what you're doing. The youth is another component of this that is so important, and as I'm able to do this more and more full time, I definitely want to allocate more time to the youth. I have, like I said, three sons right in those age ranges and a daughter in that age range, that this work is so important. And I find myself at 40 years old, like, how have I not known this for the past 25 years? And so if I can disseminate that information to my children and to other youth, how much better things can be for them going forward, to have a lot of these tools and gifts and skills. So the fact that you're like creating that place for the youth to come and learn those things is just amazing. And I thank you for that.
well, you always have a space as a mentor here. Like, I would love to have you, and I know they'd really resonate with what you do, and the messages, and respect you. So we'll see
Thanks,
where it
Rochelle.
leads us. So, Zach, do you have any questions before we hang up on the call today? Or
No, that this is yeah, you guys are amazing. Thank you. I really appreciate this. I needed it, and you're amazing, and I appreciate
well, we appreciate you coming. I never we had to reschedule it last minute, so it's just kind of, but recording it and having it for future use is the goal. So we got some
Absolutely.
really good information, good things to share. So All right. Is there anything else you want to say before we hop off, Joe?
No, just thank you, Rochelle. Thank you for sharing this. And I I absolutely know what it's like to affect one, and what that one can do to two, and that can do to four. And um yeah, we are one and two, and I'm grateful for that, and I'm here for it. I'm here for the long haul. We're playing a long game, and just thank you for the way you're showing up and for giving me the opportunity to speak about this.
Thank you. Hi, 10.
Perfect.
Okay, we'll chat soon. Thanks for
Thanks,
coming.
Rochelle. Have
Okay,
a great evening.
see you
Okay,
guys. You too.
bye.
Bye.